Welcome into Carver Hawkeye Arena. It's Jeremy Werner, Derek Piper here from Inquirer. As we just saw another great game in this rivalry. Unfortunately for Illinois, it ends up an 81-79 loss to Iowa. That snaps Illinois' 5-game win streak in this series. And I think, Derek Piper, you got called for 3 fouls in this game. I imagine that's going to be a big topic, as it should be a big topic. Illinois called for 22 fouls in this game, 16 in the second half, as Iowa makes 26 of 30 free throws, 22 of 25 in the second half. Tony Perkins goes off for 32 points, 15 free throws from Perkins in the second half. Derek, I thought this was a phenomenal basketball game. I do think Illinois fouled a lot. Dane Danger, Terrence Shannon, Matthew Meyer, Ty Rogers, I believe all had at least 4 in this game, and I think a lot of them were warranted. But Brad Underwood lamented that they didn't have enough discipline on defense. But for me, I'll give my big take. I'm not too concerned about this loss for the long term, because I thought Illinois showed that it's a really good team, playing a really good team in a really tough environment. They just didn't execute quite enough offensively or defensively, especially in the second half late.
For sure. My big take is, man, I love these games. These games are awesome. The rivalry, they're always close. I know that this was the 5th out of the last 6 games to be within 2 possessions or less and always go down to the wire. You got teams that admittedly dislike each other. You got fan bases that are, pitted against each other and at each other on Twitter. And there's pettiness in the building when you got the Boys and Girls Club walk to center court to be honored during halftime. And it's just fun. I mean, really talented players. You've had some really high-level guys in this battle here recently. I know that some of the faces have changed. You go from Luka and Kofi and Io to, last year you had Trent and Keegan Murray, and now
except Connor McCaffrey continues to be here. I was just waiting for
constant.
I was just waiting for DeMonte Williams to walk through the door. It's like, oh, that's DeMonte's music. Here he comes back.
That would have been awesome. But they need to do an alumni reunion game, like 5-10 years down the road to get this thing going. As many of these battles as possible. But yeah, I'm with you. No real negative big picture takeaway for Illinois. These are 2 teams trending in the right direction.
Yep.
They've now both won 7 of the last 10, I believe. When you look at teams that started 0-3 in the league and now sitting there at 7-5. So, Iowa is a load offensively. I think for the most part, you take Chris Murray scoring 19 points and needing 11 shots to do it. Not that he was inefficient or anything, but it was Tony Perkins, what he was able to do going off. And unfortunately, the refs seemed to get in the way a little bit. I thought the first half was a little bit more of just let these teams go up and down, and it was more tightly called. I know we'll get into some specific ones, and those at home probably had more. They definitely had more access to the replays, and I know that there was talk on Twitter about, did Epps get hit on that 3 at the end, or was Coleman getting hacked on some of those reviews about who was it off of? I do know on the Shannon one where he goes to the rim, it was the last 9 or 10 minutes of the second half. It seemed like every reasonable amount of contact was called a foul, and he did go into the lane and get hit a little bit. I don't think it was super egregious, at least in my opinion, but I understand some frustration there. But it didn't, to me, take away from what was an awesome basketball game and 2 teams that hopefully meet up again in March in Chicago, Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, listen, you want to win every game, and every game does matter. For Illinois, probably not going to win the Big Ten now, right? Purdue could lose today. I haven't checked the score of, that's a really close one. Indiana up 4 at home over Purdue late. So Purdue's going to have to lose a bunch of games, and I still don't know if that's going to happen. So to lose your 5th in 12 games, and Purdue still just has 1 loss, at least right now, that certainly gives you, probably loses any hope that you could do that. But I think the season isn't about that. The season is about, does this team have what it takes to make an extended run in the NCAA tournament? And nothing that I saw today detracts from that, because I think Iowa can too. I think Iowa's a really good team. If they get any kind of guard play like they got today out of Tony Perkins, I know Aaron Eulis has played really well. Like, that has really catapulted their season. Is those guys really improving, along with Chris Murray being a star, Philip Obracha being awesome. But yeah, I mean, there are probably some questionable calls that we can go back and say, yeah, this changed a 2-point game. That certainly could be the case. But I also thought Illinois had a chance to win this game. I mean, Terrence Shannon, if he finishes that layup, or if Coleman Hawkins makes a shot. He was 0-7 today. Like, you have one of your top players go 0-7. And Coleman did some good things on Chris Murray. I thought Murray made some tough shots over Coleman, and Coleman had 9 rebounds, I believe, 6 on the offensive glass, 7 on the offensive glass. So there's some good things. Just the difference in these games are really small, and I thought a lot of those were execution by Illinois. Like, they did foul a lot. Brad Underwood did not come out and say this was questionable calls. He said no, we were not disciplined in this game, and he mentioned it. Second time on the road that they've done that, Northwestern and now Iowa. So what do you think they take away from losing a close game and having some issues themselves and not winning the game?
Right. I think that Brad harped on the fouls and also just some of the effort plays. It seemed for the most part Illinois really was winning in that category on the offensive glass and were creating second chance opportunities and seemed to just be out hustling the Hawkeyes for the most part throughout the game. But late, I know that Brad was really mad that RJ gave up a block out that led to a second chance, and ultimately Sanford hits a 3. And they also gave up a missed free throw, one of the few Iowa missed free throws down the stretch. They got a second chance on that one as well. So it's kind of the effort plays that have to go your way late. And then fouling, it just gives teams too good of an opportunity to get points on a possession. And then for as good of a day as Matthew Meyer had, the fact that he had kind of a ticky-tack one to pick up a second late in the first half and to not have him those final 4 or 5 minutes, that hurt when he was on an absolute roll. And it was really just him putting 2 hands on a guy, which he didn't really knock him off his spot. It wasn't a crazy physical foul. It was just one that's very technical for the ref. They see 2 hands on a guy, and that's where it's the discipline. It's cutting out some of the ones that are obvious and just aren't helping you. So they got to learn from that, because we know this is a pretty darn good defensive team when they are not sending teams to the free throw line. I didn't think that Illinois was going to be able to hold down Iowa by any means. I mean, for Iowa to score 81 isn't particularly surprising. So, I think offensively there were some good things, but of course, like you mentioned, Coleman didn't help you at all offensively outside of the offensive glass. Terrence had a pretty tough game outside of maybe 2 threes that he hit and his fouls, his turnovers, and that's another thing. Like, the turnovers, for you to double up Iowa in turnovers 14-7, that's a game-changing stat right there. And there were a lot of sloppy ones that they definitely had throughout the game.
Yeah, you own this game in the paint, right? I thought you owned this game with your length and your probably physicality for the most part in this game. And I thought they're pretty good defensively outside of the fouling, right? You force some tough 2s on Murray and Perkins. They shoot 7 of 19 from 3 against this Iowa team. You're going to take that. They got too many easy ones at the free throw line. The other thing I wanted to mention here, Derek, is at the end of the first half, Illinois was getting some separation, up 7. And then Rebracha gets the goaltend call, makes the free throw. And then Jaden Epps forces a shot instead of waiting and whittling down the clock and getting your last shot and not letting Iowa get another one. He misses it. Iowa gets the rebound. And Chris Murray just nailed a 3 in Terrence Shannon's face. Like, Terrence Shannon didn't do anything wrong there, but Murray just nailed the 3. But that was a huge swing. And then they start off the second half, take the lead. That was a huge momentum swing. And those are the kind of things that you got to learn from. Like, we can talk about, hey, in the closing minutes, how'd you do? Illinois got some good looks. I thought they got some good looks offensively. For me, it was those little moments where you're fouling 90 feet from the basket, Matthew Meyer, when, Jaden Epps, don't take that shot. You got to be basketball IQ, basketball 101 here. Wait until that clock runs down so they can't get any momentum going into halftime.
For sure. And, that's something they'll definitely be able to learn from and have more awareness to. And I even think down the stretch, I know we'll probably talk about that last sequence where you're down 3 and you wanted to get the ball to Matthew Meyer. And I know Brad mentioned that he didn't want to call a timeout there to break any momentum or just let Iowa set its defense. So that's another thing that kind of when you're in the game, you learn from and can kind of get to. But for sure, that definitely swung it down the stretch of the first half. And that was, you can point back and say that was the difference. I know RJ missed a wide open corner 3 right before Epps's attempt as well. So Jaden needed to – it's hard when you're that open, and I don't mind. For the type of game that Jaden had, it's not terrible that he took the shot, but knowing what the result was and for Chris just to throw one in there that contested, it definitely was a tough swing there. But that miss by RJ continues to reemphasize just kind of the tough nature that's going on with him. Like, it's tough to play him right now with how he's going.
Yeah, no, RJ was a -15 in the plus minus, and it's not always that lines up, but it's kind of been a trend for RJ. I think he was a -10 or something in the last game. It's tough to play him. He had to play because Rogers got in foul trouble, Meyer got in foul trouble, but man, he went 0 for 1 shooting today, didn't really look interested in shooting it today, had a turnover, and not getting Matthew Meyer the ball. He gave it to Jaden Epps in the corner. Jaden's having a great game. But, man, Matthew Meyer has to touch the ball because Jaden can get blocked, right? Matthew Meyer is not going to get blocked by anybody that's guarding him. So that was another miscue there. But let's bring up – oh, go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
I think that's one thing if you're a fan. I know that some are weighing here on the chat. Like, for Brad to say that he didn't want a timeout, I think you could tell kind of right away when RJ has the ball in the perimeter and it's like plays into a handoff of RJ and Epps, Brad should probably be by the ref. Not to say that he wasn't, because I don't have the replay of it, but that's when sometimes coaches go into it like, I'm not going to call a timeout. Oh, this is not what I want. I need to call
that makes sense, right? Because the defense isn't set. You can't set up your defense. You can't substitute anybody. Like, that's what he was doing. And I can understand that because if Matthew Meyer gets the ball, I feel really good about it.
He was the only guy in Illinois that made a 3 the last 12 minutes of the game, and it was only 1. So you're down 3, you needed 1, and he was the guy that had to have the ball, and he unfortunately did not.
Yeah, so I think that criticism is fair. When RJ has the ball in that situation, you probably want to get out of his hands. And as a coach, you might want to call up something in an action that you can have. But let's talk about a big positive, Derek. Matthew Meyer has been Illinois' best player. I am now confident to say he's Illinois' best player and has been for more than a month now. But Jaden Epps has emerged. Brad Underwood called him a rock star after this game. His second half was phenomenal. 14 of his 16 points came there. He had 11 straight points as Iowa was making its run and making all these free throws. Jaden Epps just has these stress-relieving, crowd silencing on the road moments where his takes to the rim, he's got strength, he's finishing, hits that step back 2, hits a 3. To have that player emerge is just another reason I'm starting to believe even more in this team despite a loss today. I'm starting to believe more about this team's capability going into March.
Definitely. Yeah, he's been awesome. To now 10 of the last 12, he's been in double figures. So he's been super consistent. The fact that, he can get to the rim, and it's been a constant conversation of teams just can't keep him out of the paint. And it is. He makes it look so effortless, the way he just kind of slices through the defense and is composed and controlled and can take some contact because he's a little bit stronger than you expect a freshman to be, and has a really good knack for being able to finish scoop layups, different release points around the basket. And then, he started to feel it where he's behind the back, step back there, or behind the back step, pull up there, mid-range, and then does hit that 3 ball as well. So we knew that he's extremely offensively talented, especially to score the ball. You complement it with a 5-assist game, and to not have a turnover, right? No turnovers today. And now that he's able to really take the keys, and I know Brad even mentioned and called him a leader, a guy that's kind of developing into that role as well, or someone that is starting to dial things up with his play calls when he's out there on the floor. So he's fully, the floor general of the present, obviously the future as well, but he's taken it and run with it. And now to just continue to build on that, to have this type of game and a rivalry. I know Iowa's not great defensively, but still, like, to play in this building that was just raucous and packed to the very last row, and do it against Iowa, and you have Tony Perkins rolling, but Epps is trading punches with him. Oh, that was a big deal. It doesn't look like a freshman at all.
And that's what's amazing. He's a freshman, and he's like the steadiest dude out there. Like, he's the most poised. Like, Matthew Meyer is playing like a star, playing like an all Big Ten second teamer probably right now, because the first team is really, really good. But at times he was the best player on the court. So you get Jaden Epps to now emerge as somebody steady. Well, let's be honest, Terrence Shannon has not been steady here recently. Like, he'll give you steady production, but it's not been very efficient. Coleman Hawkins is far from steady for this team, even though he does some really good things defensively, and he's starting to be better on the glass. RJ Melendez is struggling. Sincere Harris is a little bit up and down. We know Ty Rogers can be a little bit up and down. To have that is great, and it's just to know you have a future Derek, of him and Dane Danger paired together, as well as a present with those guys, with Terrence Shannon and Matthew Meyer and Coleman Hawkins. That's exciting, man. Like, he is a foundational piece to what they're going to do. And last year, Brad Underwood's mentioned, oh, Luke Goody's going to score 1,500 career points. We'll get to Luke Goode here in a little bit, but Jaden Epps, if he said that, I would not blink an eye, because
Right.
Jaden Epps is going to score a lot of buckets and a lot of points at Illinois.
A ton. Yeah. And you mentioned there the pairing of him and Danger. I thought Jade made some great feeds in the pick and roll. That was really good to see. And just kind of, big picture, how big it was for Chester to be able to. He was kind of in the ear of Jaden and his dad while they're committed to Providence. Chester had been on him a long time and brought him into Blacksburg there at Vatech for a visit when he was a freshman, and kind of wanted him just to open it up and give them a chance. Obviously, Kansas was in the mix as well. And that was just a monster recruiting win to be able to get him. I think the way it's played out with Sky, we know that Sky's a talented player. Obviously hadn't been playing well, wasn't 100% off the knee or anything, but the way it's played out to just let Jaden, like, take away any kind of controversy, take away any kind of situation where Sky would be taking minutes from Jaden. I think it's worked out perfectly in that sense.
Yeah.
I know you worry about maybe depth a little bit, especially if Jaden were to get in foul trouble or anything as far as a point guard position, but for him to be
the silver lining is Jaden Epps over the last month has emerged, felt comfortable, and felt confident.
Right. Yeah. And he's the guy of the future. You can build around him. And I mean, there will be real thoughts of how you want to approach this going forward in the portal. And I think you might even be in a situation. I know there's been some dialogue of, do we want to get like a veteran ball handler or anything? Probably someone obviously you're going to pair with Jaden, but maybe Jaden will show that he is that point. Maybe it's more of a combo, but I know that's down the road. But for what this team has coming up, as this thing is the home stretch of your resume building and where you're going to finish in the Big Ten, how he's rolling is great. And I think just that composure is something that you get in an NCAA tournament. I know until you're there, you don't really know how guys are going to respond, but very encouraging kind of what we've seen in some big moments and what he could do on that stage as well.
I also want to mention Ty Rogers. Second half, not that great, but I thought he made an immediate impact. He was the first guy off the bench, had 6 points and 5 rebounds in the first half. Derek played 13 minutes in the first half. So I just wanted to mention his progress continues to grow, and his confidence continues to grow, especially offensively, what he's doing. But he just changes the game on the glass, man. Just the possessions he keeps alive on offense, the possessions he ends on defense with his rebounding, I think is game-changing. So that freshman class of Epps, Rogers, and Harris looks like it's going to be one that sticks around for a while, in my opinion, and also one that's going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, that trio is really exciting. And Ty, offensively, it has been very impressive to be able to, like, he comes off the two-man game and goes to the rim. He's got everything you need to be someone that's going to be a factor at finishing around the basket. He's got the handle, he's got the size, can use either hand. He got a really nice reverse finish as well. There was a play where he gets downhill at one point. He didn't go for the finish, instead found Matt in a corner for a kick out. He's definitely a lot more confident and comfortable offensively, which wasn't the case, back in December. And defensively, we know that he's very capable. Fouled a little bit too much, which is kind of the recurring theme of the day overall. But then, on the glass, he's just an animal and someone that plays with a ton of tenacity and a high motor. And he when he's out there on the court, he looks like a guy that, has been in the Big Ten for 3-4 years, just the way that he's built and the way that he plays. So very exciting future for that trio together.
Yeah, if you got any questions, send those in now. We're going to wrap up probably in the next 10 minutes. But Derek, next week, 2 home games against Minnesota on Tuesday, Rutgers on Saturday. Rutgers is second place in the Big Ten right now. Minnesota, obviously, last in the Big Ten. So you still won 7 of 9 here, and a chance with 2 home games next week, Derek, to get more separation in this Big Ten race, and this race really for a double bye. I think it is for most of these teams that are competing towards the top of the Big Ten. Iowa got a big one today in their only matchup against Illinois, which – can we protect this? Can we get 2 games of Iowa, Illinois every year, please? I'd love for them to return back to State Farm Center. But this is a week where Illinois, again, can make up a lot of ground. Take care of business against a really bad Minnesota team. And then home against Rutgers, you got to do what Iowa did today and protect home court if you want to get one of those double byes.
Yeah, and you think about trying to get back even with Rutgers. They're at Indiana and then at Illinois. So they got a brutal week upcoming and could be an 0-2 for them if Indiana gets them. And then if Rutgers takes the loss in Champaign as well. I mean, it's going to be a really tough game for the Illini. I mean, we can pretty much, I would imagine, I don't want to jinx anything, but pencil in a win against Minnesota because they're just god-awful. They're terrible.
Minnesota can play with Illinois for 20 minutes. It's 40 minutes. They can't do it. It's like Nebraska. Like I think Nebraska can play with Illinois for 30 minutes, but that last 10 is going to be very, very difficult just because there's such a talent and depth advantage.
Right. And we saw that Terrence made life tough for Jamison Battle. Same with Ty. And they really need Battle and Dawson Garcia to own the game for them to have a chance against Illinois.
Yeah, and Garcia's been out the last 3 games with a bone bruise, so he'll just be maybe coming back. So, yeah, you like Illinois there, but that Rutgers matchup's a big one for Illinois because you got to protect your home court, Derek.
For sure, yeah, and those teams have played a number of close games, or just had really good battles. I know that maybe Illinois has had some tough ones on the road at the rack, but Illinois has done a good job. I know that last year got a big win, a blowout win over Rutgers at home, and they're a tough, gritty, Steve Peichel physical team that is great defensively. We know that Mulcahy can get it going in that pick and roll. We know that Amori's an athletic finisher inside and someone that would really challenge Dane in that. Cam Spencer's a good shooter. It's a veteran team, especially in their starting 5, and McConnell's a really good defender. So that's one of the toughest. It will be interesting to see kind of what they decide to do. They might, the way Matthew Meyer's going right now, they might actually decide to put McConnell on Meyer instead of Shannon. But a guy that defensive player of the year in the league last year and can really lock guys down with his athleticism and length. So that'll be a tough game. But, yeah, you need to be able to hold serve at home would be a quad 1 win. And I know that the Crush will be excited to impact a big game on their home turf here coming up next weekend.
Yeah, Rutgers number 19 right now in the net. So Illinois 3-6 against quad 1 opponents. Obviously, some great wins right now with 2 top 10 wins in UCLA and Texas. So their resume, as long as they take care of business against the teams they should, that they'll be fine with all of that. But if you want to elevate your seating here a little bit, get another quad 1 win would be really important. Before we get out of here, Derek, everyone asks us about Luke Goode. So Brad Underwood was asked about Luke Goode after the game, said he wasn't going to throw him out in this game. He's only practiced 5-on-5 a few times, he said. So I think there's going to be gradual progress. Like, I think he could play Minnesota just to get up and down the court if you have a big lead in the second half, but meaningful minutes in a close game, I don't think we're quite there yet. So what are you expecting with how Underwood plays this with Luke Goode?
Yeah, I think that coming up, it is the Minnesota game. Maybe you wait till you get a comfortable lead to be able to throw him out there. And I know when Race Thompson came back, obviously he didn't miss as much time as Luke, but had a knee injury and kind of got like a 5-6 minute spurt in his first game back, and then really was able to ramp it up after that. So maybe you only give Luke 1 or 2, sub in, sub out, maybe go for a 4-minute stretch, and then you sub him back out. They would know better than we would as far as what his conditioning level is, although they did mention that after his first practice back, he was searching for his lungs. He was gasping for air. So it's tough. You go from just, some shooting workouts and trying to stay in shape in the underwater treadmill and everything. Not that I wouldn't have any experience or even know what that's like, but it's different than playing the type of speed of a game and even just to go and practice. So, 2 practices Thursday, Friday. I know when RJ wasn't playing all that well, you wondered, maybe would we see Luke for a stretch, but it was such a tight game, and it would be tough to have not played for 3+ months and to go out there. But the Minnesota game is really a perfect one to test it and see what you got in Luke and allow him to build on it. It's going to be something that I'd be surprised if he comes out and, from the get-go, he's a 40+ 3-point shooter and just lights it up and looks like he hasn't missed a beat. But then again, you never really know. I know he's going to play his butt off. I know he's got the 3-point shooting capability. He moved around pretty well in warmups out there that we saw today. He was shooting off the move and was making a good amount of them. But it will be finally good just to see it and be able to react instead of trying to hypothesize and answer this question, which we've been doing for a while.
Yeah, time after time. And I'll say this about shoot around and warm-ups. RJ Melendez sinks a lot of them. He makes a lot of them. So it's seems like it's in the head right now for RJ Melendez. And it's tough to watch. He's tough to play right now at this moment, especially when Sincere Harrison, especially Ty Rodgers, might give you more with everything else. All right, Derek, one question to wrap this up. I think it's a good one by Mark. It feels like this team is becoming more and more consistent. I like that Mark's saying that after a loss, because I do think we saw some consistency with Illinois today, playing well. If they continue to play at this level, can they finish top 4 and get double bye in the Big Ten tournament? What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think so. You're still going to have a tough one on the road at Indiana, a tough one on the road at Purdue. The Rutgers game at home is a big challenge as well. And we know it's really kind of a daunting final 6 games when you factor in even the road trip to Penn State. Still going to have to play Hunter Dickinson, Michigan. They're not all that good, but yeah, I agree with the consistency part of it. This was an encouraging day for the offense. Like, to be able to have Epps, Meyer, and Dane all really kind of pop in the same game was great. Just need Shannon to get back into a rhythm and be more consistent. I don't want to see games. I know that teams are scheming against his drives, but it was another one where he takes more threes than it was 2-point field goals, shots at the rim. And part of that's game planning, but I do think he falls in love with the three a little bit too much. His turnovers have hurt him in some games too, and Coleman's got to be someone that is more reliable. And maybe it's not going to happen, but I do think his energy's been good. I do like that about him. I know he's defending pretty well for sure.
It's been tougher on the glass, man. Way tougher on the glass.
Yes, it's just the lack of shot making boost is hurting you, especially because you don't get it from RJ, you don't really get it from Sincere, and just kind of the offensive inconsistency. That's one thing that you still wonder about if it's going to hurt you down the road.
That leads me right into Marshall. What is Illinois' biggest Achilles heel right now? It's shot making, right? I mean, outside of Matthew Meyer, who makes shots? Like Jaden Epps can. Dane Danger's around the rim. Terrence Shannon is not consistently making them. 2 of 6 is a good night for him from 3, but he struggled from 2 today. But that's it. They need another shot maker to emerge. They need Coleman or RJ or Luke Goode to really emerge here as a shot maker, because they just don't have consistency from the 3-point line. Like 7 of 22 has been way better than what they've shot here recently, but it's still just 3% better than what they're averaging during Big Ten play. So tonight, I thought that showed up late in the game. They just didn't make some of these open shots. Coleman Hawkins open 3 in the corner. Peyton Sandfort made it. Coleman Hawkins didn't.
For sure. Yeah, that's what it is. And when you think about how much is on Matthew Meyer's plate offensively right now, if he has an off game, you're probably in trouble. You know that Epps wants to get downhill. You know Shannon wants to get downhill. Until you really are making enough threes and taking the right ones too. I think there are times, I mean, even Shannon would kind of have that ISO. He made 1 or 2 of those, but it will clog up the lane. It will make teams play zone. If you face a really good defender that can make life tough on Matt, that's kind of what hurts. And same thing with Dane too. Like Dane, as far as the spacing you want to give him inside, it's the 3-point shooting that can open things up there. So the fact that that's not clicking at a high rate is still a criticism. And I'd say shot making and just kind of overall offensive consistency.
I love this rivalry, Derek. You mentioned the pettiness of bringing up the Boys and Girls Club and announcing them. The crowd went wild to that. It's just fantastic. Like I love that they are embracing this. Iowa, after the game, crushed with their graphic. And then there's a picture of one of the Iowa players in the locker room. I think it's Sandfort writing Orange Crush on their board. So this is fantastic, man. Like, this is what it's all about. And what I love about this one is they both acknowledge, like, we don't like each other. We're rivals. But that's what makes college basketball fun. Like, Indiana doesn't claim Illinois as a rival, right? Theirs is Indiana, who they're playing today. Michigan doesn't claim Illinois as a rival, even though Illinois has owned that one here for a little bit here under Juwan Howard. This one, it's mutual. That's awesome.
It's very awesome. And to see, like, Trent Frazier weigh in on Twitter and say, forget Iowa. We don't like those guys. And, Iowa really started, as far as the honesty goes, like, we don't like them. They don't like us. We want to kill them. To have the pettiness angle, the coaches that are very fiery, both really getting after it, but they obviously like each other a lot. They've been tight, but there is the battles on the court. Like, even, Connor McCaffrey and Matthew Meyer talking trash to each other on the court. They were really chirpy, but it's fun. The fans embrace it. The players do as well, and it's just fantastic basketball. They're fun games to watch. They're usually pretty high scoring, and they're intense. They always come down to the wire. So more of this, please. Thank you.
Yeah, get protected rivalries. We do that in football. Let's protect these rivalries in basketball as well. All right, for Derek Piper, I'm Jeremy Werner at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Thank you guys for listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Thanks to all of you watching on the YouTube channel. Give us a like on these videos. That really helps us out. And of course, follow us on YouTube. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. Give us a rating and review. We appreciate that. Plenty of content coming up at Illini Inquirer. We got everything from this basketball game. We're going to write about Jaden Epps. We're going to write about a close game. Illinois hasn't played many of those. We'll have player grades. We got a lot of football content coming up as well this weekend at Illini Inquirer. So everybody have a great weekend. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.